Hi, Josh.
Well, hello.
It's
How do
so
you
f-
do?
it's so funny that you're here. What are you doing here?
A buongiorno. Who, me?
Yes, you. It's been forever.
Forever and a
Oh my
day,
God. Yeah.
right?
Good.
You got a lot of questions, and bitch, I don't have to answer none of them.
But I have like five more.
All right, just lay them on me.
Okay. Who
I
was your
don't want to answer them, but I will answer all of them.
Thank you. Who was your favorite friend?
My favorite friend,
You
like
know,
in my
from the
life,
show? No, from the show. I don't give a shit about your life.
I was not a big fan of that
uh,
show.
who
I
was?
Okay, so like that's an interesting question. I think that there was really talented people on that show. I was an early fan of Courtney Cox.
From that Bruce Springsteen video?
Okay, that's how she made her breakthrough, but she was also on a little known show called Misfits of Science.
How could I forget? You know,
I'm
when
also a huge Lisa Kudrow fan, and
oh,
I
she's
think that she's like
fantastic.
amazing.
I mean, I love her just for being one of Conan O'Brien's exes. I think that's fantastic.
And
Cool
I
too.
love that they seem to have stayed great friends through the
Yeah,
years.
so do I. Uh, I really just pulled that question out of my ass. Didn't really care. I don't know. I don't know.
Um, yeah.
Oh my God, are you ready to
I
talk
guess it's
about some?
Gunther. Gunther was my favorite, or the monkey.
Oh, the monkey was great.
Yeah.
He liked the show about as much as I did. Let's talk about some Nazis. Let's clap it in.
Yep. Woo! Woo! What's up, everybody? It's On Fire Tonight with Josh and Teresa. We are here to talk about Man in the High Castle, Season 1, Episode 6. The episode is called Three Monkeys. And here's your one and only chance to watch it before we spoil it. Boom, we're going into the episode.
You're back. Or whatever. Uh,
Teresa, big picture, big
and
picture. What'd you think of this episode, and how do you like the show so far?
I like the show a lot. This episode was full of um, wacky and nerve wracking sitcom situations. And
Sitcom situation. I feel like there's so much fucking court intrigue and palace intrigue. Like,
you know, I think all the sneaking around just reminds me of sitcoms in general.
but they always, here's the thing, like, they have stuff happening like all over the country. And
Um,
the way they intercut tense scenes with each other is like, it really works for me.
yeah, it yes. Every every cut in scene relates to the other in just tone. And then when it's not tense, it's like, okay, take a breath for a minute and then we're going to jump back in, guys.
Right. But there's so much subtext, even when it's not played for
Yeah.
high tension. You're like, oh my God, this is like even more tense in some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's start it off. It's VA Day in the Reich. It's a beautiful day to be a Reich citizen. We're on Long Island. Joe has got his best suit on. He's carrying a bouquet of flowers. The
He
sun is
looks so
shining.
nice.
We hear Bobby Darin singing Mac the Knife. The flag has the red and white American stripes, but in the sea of blue instead of stars. It is a swastika. Everyone greets each other with a very warm Sieg Heil.
Aw, Sig Heil to you.
Sieg Heil to you.
Have a nice day.
Obergruppenführer John Smith
Uh,
opens the front door, greets him warmly. The neighbor, just like across the way, is like, Sieg Heil to you. It
Cheers.
could not be more, you know,
American.
it's Americana.
Yeah.
It's Norman Rockwell. It's Saturday
Ew.
Evening Post.
Yeah, it is.
It's
100%.
airbrushed perfection.
Yep.
We get to see Joe meet Helen and the kids, including Thomas, the son, and there's a dog. This is the most American family. The dog comes in. It's a beautiful pooch that loves Joe Blake right away.
Like the most generic American dog you could ever see.
It's like a
Everything
golden
is,
retriever.
yeah, you don't think that's like so American to have a golden retriever? Ugh,
Okay, I guess. I
so
don't know.
basic.
I don't, I guess I don't know how
I mean, if
to
you think about dogs, it's a golden retriever. I mean, come on.
um I feel like sometimes people talk like the way you're talking about dogs and specifically how you can tell like a bunch of things about the owners of a particular breed.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that stuff and I don't understand that stuff. And so when people reference it, it doesn't make any sense to me. But like the same language is used to describe what car a person owns by like some people that like think that they can read meaning into what you drive or what you don't drive or something.
Yeah, it's all astrology in the end.
Yeah, that's what I think it is too. That is legit what I think people are talking about when they talk about like, oh my God, like he had a blah blah blah. And I was like, what does I don't know the difference between one car and another.
Okay, but what time of day was he born?
Meanwhile, in San Francisco, in the Pacific States, under
Mm-mm.
imperial rule, it's kind of awkward back at Frank and
Yeah,
Juliana's.
that's weird. I wonder why that is. She's getting ready for work. Frank has no idea where she's going. He's like, well, you got to get to the dojo. And she's like, yeah, the dojo.
Yeah, so they're like, I guess we'll like just meet back here for dinner and we'll have like a nice dinner together and that'll be great. And he was like, were you talking on the phone earlier? And she's like, oh, it's the wrong number. Oh.
Nothing. You know, when Joe got to Oberfuger Meyer,
Oscar Mayer Wiener.
yeah, John Smith, when he got to his house, he's like looking around. He's getting a tour by his teen son.
Uh-huh.
And he goes into Smith's office and he's like poking around and he sees the file.
The
And
grasshopper file,
yes. And he's like,
which I assume is like the recipe for how to make that cocktail.
yeah, exactly.
Wasn't that like a
It's
popular
like,
drink back then?
yeah, creme de menthe and like half and half or heavy cream. And that's probably it. I don't know. And he's like, I'm just going to take a real quick peek. And then he hears a gun cocking behind him. And his son's just having a fun time with a gun that he wanted to show him.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's just like totally like wholesome
mm-hmm,
gun holding by a child,
mm-hmm.
by a teen. He's like, my dad loves to hunt. It's
It's
like,
America.
yeah, who wouldn't love to hunt? Of course, all Americans love such things.
Absolutely.
Juliana reports to the Nippon building. What's going to happen, man? We don't know yet.
Oh, she's got a new job. Guess who she's working for?
It's fucking Tagomi.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, like things could have gone worse for her.
Yeah, she could have had to do personal favors the entire time.
Right, for Mr. Eto. But instead, Tagomi got her file and called her like he had his people call her up. And now she's being called into his office. She sees her own necklace on his desk.
Dope.
She has it explained to her that like her job, because there are not too many white faces when Aryans come to visit, they like to see a pleasant white face. So she's gonna have to serve tea and smile.
That sounds like an Aryan. I
And
mean,
she's like, "Hi, arigato, arigato." And then Tagomi's man Kotomichi explains to her that she's only to go in the building explicitly where she's allowed to go and nowhere else.
And where he says and when he says, and not to talk at all unless spoken to. He's a real asshole.
I mean, he's also just explaining to her what the
Oh, yeah.
normal protocols are. Like yes, that sounds like asshole shit because it's like don't speak unless spoken to sounds like asshole shit. But if those are like the rules of society that 99.9% of people understand and adhere to, and if you don't know them, you're going to come off as a bumbling fool. So he's actually helping her.
Okay, I agree with what you're saying. However, the look on his face was purely like, I hate this fucking white woman every time he opened his mouth. And he would just stare her down. He was a dick. I don't care if he was trying to like
You might be
bend the
right. You might be
rules.
right. I think
Come
I
on.
think I think it's a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B.
I think that you give people too much of a benefit of the doubt.
Maybe I
And
do.
I
Maybe
think
I
we need
do.
to
And
work
maybe
on
I'm
that.
wrong too.
Yeah. Because some are fucking Nazis and some
Yeah.
are fucking Japanese occupiers.
Yeah, speaking of Nazis,
Uh
they're
huh.
back in the backyard, back in Long Island,
Yeah.
in Massapequa or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what town
I
this is
don't
supposed to
know.
be, but it's a quaint one. It's an adorable one.
Yeah.
Uh, Joe's playing catch with Thomas, and Thomas is asking him like, "So where'd you go to college?" He's like, "Oh, I just went to work." He's like, "Yeah, but you were like in the Hitler Youth," and he's like, "Yeah,
Sure I am, kid. Whatever.
of course I was until they kicked me out." And Obergruppenführer John Smith comes back and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, DiMaggio? You're pretty good at that." It's like, "I didn't know you were a baseball fan." "Well, I used to be,"
It's like a lazy sport,
compared to track and soccer.
which,
This guy has drunk the fucking Kool-Aid.
I mean,
He he used to be an American who liked American things, and now
you
he's a
know,
Reichsman who
I
likes
hadn't even considered
Reichsman.
that. I just assumed that all of the head Nazis were like from Germany. And of course
No,
they're not. Of
no, of
course
course
they're
not.
not.
Not this guy.
No. But he's such a Nazi. I just assumed.
Yeah, no, but no, there's layers to this character. And
Yeah.
there's history. There's baked in backstory.
Hmm. So he's like, hey, Joe, I gotta go pick up my mother in law. What a fucking battle axe she is. You gotta come with me, though.
Right. And so he's like, "This is your chance to ride with me to the airport. What a fucking treat for you."
Yeah, I can't wait.
And so Joe tosses the ball back to Thomas as he leaves, and Thomas is like he's looking at his hand, like he takes his glove off and is like, "What the fuck?" And looking at his hand. Back in SF, Keto is looking for an antique gun seen at that where the prince's assassination attempt was.
Yeah. Here's a picture of the gun we want to find. An oldie timey comic of a Western cowboy.
Yeah,
Here you go.
it's a cowboy comic book. They're like, this is what they said it looks like, so this is what we got to go track down.
That tickled me.
And then Juliana's stepfather, Arnold, stops by to give condolences to Frank, but like that's not totally why he's there. Frank's like, "Yeah, your wife stopped by, so like, why are you really here?"
Your household already visited. You don't need to do this too.
Yeah. So Arnold is like, "Well, Juliana didn't seem like herself and with Trudy away." And Frank's like, "Yeah, well, whatever. Like, you don't have to like, maybe we don't have to worry about Juliana. She's pretty tough." And Arnold is
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, guys like you and me, we
We
worry
have to
about
care.
people whether or not they need us to."
Mm.
Because like he they both have overdeveloped senses of responsibility. It sounds like.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure, for
Or
sure,
that
for
that's
sure,
some
for sure, for sure, for
projection. I
sure.
don't know.
No, no, no. I think you got it. My thing is everybody grieves differently. I get that. That's fine. But Frank's being a real fucking dick. I mean, Juliana lost her sister too. Chill the fuck out, Frank.
Yeah, but like she went on an adventure and his adventure was in a fucking prison cell while they murdered his family members in the same building.
Tomato, clamato, whatever.
Tomato Clement. God, I hope they have another season of that goddamn
I
show.
know. I was just
I
thinking about
love it so
that.
fucking much.
Mm.
So yeah, Letterhead, super fans, longtime listeners. We're talking about our love for the show Outer Range, also on Amazon Prime.
You know what we got to do is we got to flood Twitter with outer range love because that's how it happens. We got to get
Mm.
all the letterheads to tweet about it.
Yeah. Please,
Letterheads,
Letterheads, get the word out.
smoldering pirates.
We're the
Uh,
smoldering
yeah, I'm
pirates.
talking to you.
Yeah, A
Uh,
number one, the smoldering pirates in the house.
what was the other nickname we had?
For ourselves?
No, for the assholes that listen to us. So yeah, us.
The super fans?
Yeah, super fans, letterheads, get your asses to Twitter and demand a second season of Outer Range. We have
Right.
hanging
Do it.
strings, we have questions, and we have storylines we would like to see developed.
We have characters that we love and we want to see them play out their stories.
Absolutely. So back at the airport in Long Island,
Yeah, it's the Lincoln Rockwell Airport, not
I don't know
JFK.
where the fuck that is.
So it would have been Idlewild in our time, which renamed for JFK. So like what JFK Airport is today.
Oh, it looked
Yeah.
very small.
So instead it's named, well, I mean it's the 60s.
Yeah, so they only
Or
had
we're
like
just
one
seeing one
airplane.
terminal or something.
You know what? I when I was watching this scene, I was like, that is shocking. Like the Zig Heil and the Heil Hitler that you
Mhm.
hear sporadically, it's like I feel like people joke about that enough and they've been joking about that for 80 years that it's not shocking to hear unless it's real. But seeing all the like Nazi imagery was fucking shocking to me. And I know it's just a fake show, but it's still like,
Just swastikas everywhere.
yeah, every fucking where. And
Yeah,
like
like that kids Hitler Youth like slash Boy Scouts of America looking
his little
uniform
short pants.
with just there's like 17 swastikas all over that kid's uniform.
Yes.
It's like, how do you not like why do you have need so many of them?
We get it with one.
Right.
And the whole thing that made me think about it is like they're scanning the airport entrance and just like showing us all the people that are at the airport. And like at least three-fourths of them had like Nazi gear on. And one of them was just like fucking decked out in.
Well, it's also VA Day. So they
Right,
might
right. No,
like
I
they might
get
be wearing
it.
more swastikas than normal on this
Right.
particular day.
But you know, he had the black leather Nazi vagina overcoat on and all the black Nazi gear. And I was like, oh, that's the bad guy. Stay away from that guy. Because that's all I know about Nazis from movies. Is like, if you see a guy in black Nazi gear, he's going to kill you. So what I'm saying is, well done.
Okay, so we're at the airport. Obergruppenführer John Smith informs Joe Blake that Helen's mother's flight was canceled. What luck! What a bummer. Oh well. And then he spots his old friend Rudolph Wegner. And Rudolph Wegner is the conspirator guy that just got out of the Pacific States
The
by
guy
the
that,
skin of his teeth.
yeah, the guy that I like to call Mr. Green. And I don't know if that's his name
It
still.
was, I think it's Baines was his cover identity. If I heard it correctly.
Yeah, I don't. Probably. So he's like, yo, Rudolph, what up? How have you been? I haven't seen you since we were.
It's been like 15 years. And they hug and they're both like ecstatic to see each other. And he's like, oh yeah, I just got back from like a business trip to the Pacific States. And now my flight is delayed and it
Oh,
could
that's
be hours.
terrible. Oh, you should come to my house for dinner. We're having a barbecue with the most disgusting looking turkey you've ever seen in your life.
It's VA Day. I insist.
Well, if you insist, let's go.
So back in the Pacific States, Tagomi is in a trade meeting with the Germans, and he like wishes them a warm VA day. It's weird that they're doing business on
Right.
VA day.
I was just gonna say, why didn't they just take the day off? It's
It's
VA day.
probably because the crown prince was shot, and it's like we
Mm,
can't just like take the day off.
yeah, but it kind of makes it seem like they had this planned for a while.
I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know. It seemed weird, but the fact that they acknowledge it in the scene is something.
Yeah.
And
They're like, what? Why don't you guys celebrate VA Day? What's that about?
he's like, well, what's a bigger thing for us is Army Navy Day, which is when we celebrate our joint victory.
Oh, that's nice.
And by the way, the prince, who is recovering very nicely, will lead the Army Navy Day celebration back in Tokyo.
Oh,
And the German is like, he like ruffles his shirt and is like, how is the investigation going? And he's like, we're not going to talk about that here.
no, thank you, sir.
Yeah, like nice try. Nice fishing attempt. So
Uh,
back in the car, driving back from the airport,
mm-hmm.
we just get some chit chat from the dudes. And it sounds like Wegner is sort of like disillusioned by politics back in Berlin. He lives in Berlin.
Right.
And he was saying how like politics brings out the worst in some of his colleagues.
You know, I would think that you just do not talk politics, period, with a Nazi
Well, but
if
these
you
are old
disagree.
friends.
No, I get that.
These guys go back. They've had like great times together.
Yeah, yeah.
They get to the house,
Mm-hmm.
and like he and Helen have known each other all that time as well. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
warm welcome.
Okay, but like, let's say we're both super gung ho Nazis. Yo, Josh, Zig Heil,
Yeah.
15 years later, and you have been disillusioned and you're not so sure about anything anymore, but I am like the king of Nazis where I come from.
Uh-huh.
So, how do you feel about these great politics that Adolf Hitler has, huh? They're great, right? You're gonna be
Well,
like, yeah, they're fucking great. I love them.
well, Wegner says in conversation, like all I absolutely agree with the Fuhrer that like continued peace benefits us all.
Yeah, he did say that.
So he's good at
But
towing the
who is?
party line.
Yeah, he is. All right.
It's
I
and
mean,
it doesn't sound like he's lying when he says that.
right. No, I don't think he is. I
Yeah.
think he, I think Adolf Hitler is, but I don't think he is.
Oh,
I know.
oh, wow.
Uh, uh,
Somebody's got some really
uh,
negative ideas about Adolf
uh.
Hitler all of a sudden.
Hot take coming through.
All right, so
Anyway.
we have a scene back in the antique store, and our
Mm,
obsequious little antique store owner guy, whose name is Mr. Childen.
this guy's such a wiener.
He totally is. So he calls the home of that hip young Japanese couple that like
Mhm.
stopped by, and he's trying to drum up some business.
He's doing more than trying to drum up business. He's like, hey, if you want to stop by or whatever, I think that'd be pretty cool, I guess. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I got some pretty cool stuff.
He's like, I've got some dope shit that just came in and it's not gonna last. I'd hate for you to miss out.
And the whole conversation, this one was like, who are you? What? I don't know what you're
She's
talking
like,
about.
I guess I'll check with my husband. And he's like, of course. He like reels back, like, of course.
And then the cops come in, Keto comes in, he's like, oh, I gotta go. And she's like,
He
go.
just
I don't
hangs
give a
up on her.
fuck.
Totally right. It's like, why did this person who just called me hang up on me?
But he also says, I'll talk to you later. And she's like, no, you won't. What are you saying?
So Keto and the other Kempa guy are there to take a look at his ledger. They see the sale of those 3 bullets and they're like, what's up with this? He's
Well,
like,
it's not.
oh, I'm very proud of my highly placed customers. He's just talking about like how important his like associates are.
They're just
And
breezing through town. They didn't have time to say. I didn't get a lot of information from them, so it's fine.
right, but he's also like clearly a grasper. Like it's important to him that like other people know his customers are important.
Oh, yeah.
These cops don't give a shit. They're like
Uh-uh.
they're like fuck that noise.
They're
This guy
like a
lives in
lady he just
Tibet,
called.
right? And he's like, yes, oh my God, that guy, like, he's such a trusted. We don't give a fuck who you trust. It's who I trust. That's all that matters. And then they just ghost him. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
They turn on their heel, and that's the end of the
Bye.
conversation.
This dude is so fucking clueless about life in general. I want a sitcom about him. I'll say it.
He's amazing, right? Like he's a real Felix. It's Oscar and Felix from The Odd Couple, right? Felix is
Mm-hmm.
the uptight one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Or
And
no, Oscar's the
no,
uptight one. Felix
no.
is the uptight one.
Felix is the uptight one. And
Okay.
then he could be roommates with Frank, and Frank could be the Oscar. It would be great. Frank's leaving his charcoal Nazi paintings all over the apartment.
Damn
And
it. Oh, except wait, but this antique guy would like appreciate that because he appreciates fine things.
yeah, but this is new. He doesn't want that.
That's true. Good point. All right,
Hmm.
so back in Long Island, Thomas, he gets something that he's never had before, which is a glass of wine.
Oh,
That's that's the teenage son
yeah.
of
Because
the Smith family.
Rudolph brought a bottle of Riesling, which is disgusting.
Oh, I like Riesling.
It's like, I don't know. It's like a Sprite and vodka. I don't know. So,
What?
I don't know. It's
So
so
it's a
sweet.
wine.
I know, but it's so sweet. I can't handle how sweet it is.
I guess I like Swedish wines, but not Swedish wines.
Not IKEA wines. So they're like all around this table, and John Smith is carving up the most disgusting looking turkey. It looks like it needs at least 3 more hours to cook, and he is having a time trying to cut it. That's all I remember from that scene. He was having a hard time with that turkey.
Oh, so there are a couple other things that happen in that scene
Oh,
that are like
really?
important.
I
Yeah. So
don't.
first of all, they toast the most important job in the Reich, which is mother.
What?
The mother, like the mother, the head, the mother of the household. It's the most important.
Okay.
You have Nazi babies. That's the most important job there is.
Shoot him out, ladies.
That's right. Breed them. Breed them. And then, so what also happens in this scene, Rudolph is like, so wait, you no longer sail? And John Smith does not even like the question.
He
He's
hates it.
he's
Okay, I
like,
remember
no,
some
not
of it.
since Cincinnati. And he tries to like move the conversation along, but
What
it's
happened?
like Rudolph is still
He's pushing
asking.
it. He knows there's something wrong with that question. He's still pushing it. What happened in Cincinnati?
Well, we get a little bit
Do we?
more about that later on in the episode.
Can we go there? Okay, let's go. To the rest of it.
Yeah, well, okay. So yeah, just like there are not that many things between here and there. So like Frank and Ed are working on the factory floor,
Mhm.
and Frank is like, "Hey Ed, have you heard the phrase to life?" And he's like,
What's
"I
that
don't
mean?
think so. Does that mean something?" He's like, "I don't know." And right then, like the manager guy comes and he's like, "Hey, I got to inspect your work." Like they're asking about these parts. He's like, "Is everything right?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, everything's right."
Doesn't he like ask for a favor or something to the boss? And the
I
boss
don't.
is like, I'm not concerned right now. I'm just checking your work. Shut the fuck up. Never
Oh,
mind. Never.
I don't know. Did he?
I know. I felt like he. I don't know. I don't even know what he asked him, but it's fine.
Well, because he
Uh,
saw there were like police guys by the door talking to the manager before he comes over.
yeah.
So
So Helen is chatting up Joe, and I think she's getting a little friendlier than she should be with Joe.
you
Eh,
do? I don't think that at
yes,
all. I don't get
she
that at
was
all.
she was eyeballing him. She was like, "Hey, you should stay the night."
Not like this swinger party type of way.
Oh, I didn't say John Smith would be involved. Come on.
She's she's the matriarch of this family.
She knows who his dad is. She wants on in on that.
That's interesting. Well, whoever his dad is, his
Adolf
dad's not
Hitler.
there.
Yeah, so basically she's like, you shouldn't go all the way home. It's long stuff and just it's
She,
you're
she she
tired.
invites him to stay over, but she's also like they have like a conversation. He's like, he's touched by having spent the day with them. And
Oh,
like,
we're back to this. Blah 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 feelings. Da 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 da.
okay, so of course, anybody that's been listening to this podcast knows that Tressa cannot stand to hear anyone say anything emotion based. So just very quickly, and I realize Tressa can't even hear me right now because
Josh, I
like
think your mic is off.
so Joe is touched by having been able to spend this family time on a family day with the Smith family, and he thanks her.
At the family house with the family dog in the family yard
And
because he never sees his dad, Adolf Hitler.
she's like, listen, when John and I got together, nobody would have given us a chance, like, but to look at us. Like, we had nothing, we had less than nothing. But John believes, and I believe too, that you make your own destiny. And Joe was like, well, it looks like you've done pretty well. Because, like, they're in a big, beautiful, expensive house, et cetera, et cetera. And she's like, honestly, you could have all of this. Like,
On an
this,
island, like some sort of exotic tropical paradise. All
right. Well,
islands are tropical paradises, right?
that's a thing that Rudolph said. He's like, I mean, surely, like you live on Long Island, which is an island, so like,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you be sailing just like you used to? He's like, yeah, I don't do that anymore. Not since Cincinnati.
I mean, it just makes sense. Rudolph is right.
And then so like everybody's been drinking all day, and Obergruppenführer John Smith is like, oh, it's starting, and like calls them all in to watch Hitler on TV and like the big parade in Berlin
Hooray.
or like wherever the parade
Yeah.
is. Um, and he's sort of just chit chatting with Wagner, asking him about his Pacific States assignment. He's like, oh, that's a routine trade mission. Am I being interrogated, Obergruppenführer? And he's like,
Yes.
yes, you are. Long stare, and then they both giggle.
Ah, we have fun.
Back in the Nippon building, Juliana gets credentialed, right? She's notified that like she's getting her official
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
badge
yeah.
and documents where they're making them up for her.
Yeah, yeah. And she has 15 minutes to go get her security pass.
Right. And so there's like a lot of
15
rapid
minutes.
cutting back and forth between these two scenes. So
Yeah.
simultaneously, while the parade is on and the family's watching,
There's lots of
you,
eyeballing, lots
yeah,
of shifty eyes.
we learn that America was liberated by the Reich in 1947 on this date.
Oh, that was nice.
Juliana goes down to the HR office. Joe claims to be getting snacks, but he's really snooping.
Pretzels, to be specific.
Yeah, he's
A
looking,
German snack.
of course. Um, Juliana tries to get like her stuff, like her badge unnoticed, but like she's also snooping around trying to find like she has that business card that Trudy and Randall's friend gave her,
Yeah.
and she's trying to find this person's like file. She runs into the girl that she was like in line with waiting to get a job. This girl's name is Christine.
She's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing over here? What do you need?
And she's like, oh well, they asked me to get, it wasn't like my boss, it was like one of the other girls asked me to get like this file. And then she says a name, but it's like, oh, You idiot. Like, what school did you go to? You fucking dummy. And then she has it explained to her that that's like the three monkeys proverb, like see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. And Cherry Blossom, which is just like a very common last name. And she's like, oh, I
Oh.
guess it was a prank. She tries to play it off.
Oh, I'll just call them, see if they meant something else or something. That's fine. I'll just call those people that told you to get that file real quick, unless you want to stop me, Juliana. Okay, I'm calling. Are you gonna
She's
stop
like,
me?
no, don't bother. It's just that they're just hazing the new girl, the new white girl.
Ah, take that.
And she goes back and like Joe brings in the pretzels.
Oh, but when he went to go check the cupboard, it was locked this time.
Yeah, locked cabinet.
Mm.
So you know what I mean? See no
But you
evil,
know,
hear no evil,
oh, when
speak no evil,
he
cabinet no
finds,
evil.
yep, cabinet, that was the big one. When
He
he
does find
checks,
pretzels though.
yeah, of course, it's
Some
German household.
Zells. Hook up the Zells.
Before he gets distracted by snacks, when he checks the cupboard,
Distracted?
he he he's like, "Oh, it's locked. I'll find the key." Everyone's waiting for snacks, Joe. You don't have time to look for a key and pull out the file and look at it. Just go get the pretzels, Joe.
Yeah, he's making me very tense with his like laissez-faire attitude towards time.
Yes.
And being in somebody's house, which seems like if you take a step, things are gonna like rattle and like, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, the crystal everywhere is gonna
Right?
like make so much noise.
Totally.
I haven't seen crystal, but you know it's everywhere.
Right. You know it. You just
Mm-hmm.
know by looking at this place, like, oh my God, every time I take a footfall, it's like ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Yes, 100%.
All right, so back at the Nippon building, Kido comes into Komi's office and is like, hey, so here's a weird thing.
Yeah, what's up?
There was like a guy that had
Hmm.
fake documents that
Weird.
claimed to be named Baines, but his real
Huh.
name was Wegner, and he
Hmm?
fucking appeared. And
What?
coincidentally,
Yeah.
you had a
Hmm?
diplomatic visa issued.
Huh, I don't know what you're
Um,
talking about.
so like who did you have it issued for? And Tagomi's like, well, it
Oh,
wasn't either of those people.
let me think. Oh yeah, his name was Mind Your Own Fucking Business, bitch.
It was like, see no evil, speak no evil. And
Tagomi's awesome.
yeah, but Keto is like, all right, but I'm gonna need that name. And then he turns on his heel and leaves.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It was. All right, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that like Tagomi outranks Keto, but Keto still has great authority.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like in Kingdom when that one cop was looking and trying to solve the murder of all those pregnant women and the babies. And he went to like the Queen's castle, or I mean palace, and they're like, whoa, you can't just go into the Queen's palace when she's giving birth. You're going to have to go to jail now. It's like that.
Yeah, it's unclear like when you have competing hierarchies who wins out, but when I mean certain people like they have higher rank.
We should just all be socialists. Anyway, so Mrs. Smith takes a few barbiturates after bringing out the booze
Yeah,
cart.
Thomas brings in a tray of drinks for the adults because
Hmm.
everybody's throwing them back.
Oh yeah, they are.
And
And
fucking Helen in those barbiturates.
yeah, and it's not like they're cocktails like mixed drinks. It's just straight whiskey they're drinking, and
Yeah,
plenty of it.
they're talking about how have you ever had Polish
Ugh,
vodka?
disgusting.
Yeah. And
So
then, but
gross.
they have, so that they have some whiskey. Joe notices there's like a silver key on the bar cart when he gets like more whiskey from it.
Yeah, it's like underneath the dimple of a booze bottle, which great hiding place.
So he asks Wegner, what's it like in the Pacific States? And he's like, yeah, it's a lot like here. It's just a little different. And, I admire, like, there's sort of a little bit of tension
Mm-hmm.
because he has positive things to say about sort of life under Japanese rule. And
You don't want to get your lips a little too loose
right,
when talking to
exactly.
King Nazi of America.
Loose lips sink
And
ships,
he's getting
as
pretty
they said
drunk.
back in the day.
They did.
And of course, we're talking about back in the 80s when
Hmm.
Rat
Yep.
had that song.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. Um, so anyway, he's like, listen, I just agree with the Fuhrer. Continued peace with the Japanese Empire is good for everyone. And then he's like, well, I mean, was everything we did in the war necessary? And then he's like, the camps, all the people we exterminated.
We don't even
And
talk about that. We just talk about
yeah,
the stuff that like benefited us. And
yeah, we like to gloss over that stuff. And we're
uh,
talking about not that long ago. We're
yeah,
talking about 15 years ago.
yeah,
Things that
uh,
they
uh,
obviously did together.
yeah. Rudolph, shut the fuck up. You're talking to King Nazi. He's not
Yeah,
gonna
but
like
but
this.
Rudolph is fucking a high-ranking Nazi, obviously also. Rudolph is no fucking slouch. He's a
Okay,
big deal.
yes, but he's also just done a bunch of crazy shit and tried to be like basically a double agent or not even a double agent, a spy for whatever he's doing. He knows he's got stuff to hide. Shut your fucking mouth, Rudolph. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so John Smith is like, listen, certain things are necessary, sacrifices had to be made. And he's like, this is when Rudolph really brings it home about the sailing. He's like, you used to go sailing and it was like you were searching for perspective. He's like, well, I don't sail anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're not
Yeah.
searching anymore, are you, Dick?
That's that's what it was all about. Going sailing is when he was on his own and he was like, what are we doing? How can we do this? I
This
can't
is
believe
not
I'm actually
good.
doing this shit. And he was at war with himself. And so he made his peace, but he's like, I'm a Nazi. I'm going to do Nazi stuff.
I can no longer sail and have a thought to myself because then I will realize this sucks.
Yeah. He's like, well, at least now we have better whiskey. That's what Rudolph says. And then John Smith is like, not done. He's like, at least now we have a better world. And Joe, who's sitting there, is like, so see Kyle, guys?
Heil Hitler? I don't. Back in Tagomi's office, he asked to talk to Juliana. She's about to leave for the day.
Hmm.
And she gets in there and he stands up and he's like, zip. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't happen. He's like, hey.
Tagomi, a perfect gentleman, an
Yes.
utter gentleman.
He's like, you know what? I really appreciate. He's so nice and so sweet. He's like, I know this is weird and hard, and I appreciate everything you do. And she's like, cool, thanks. I forgot what else happened in that scene. I just
Oh,
wanted to say zip. That's all I wanted to do there.
all right. So what happens in that scene?
Uh huh.
Tagomi is like, listen, it's great that you're here. She notices once again her own necklace on his desk.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, listen, the fact that you've been placed in this position means that you are trusted. And I want you to know that. And I appreciate you and I trust you. And she says that she studies Aikido and that Aikido teaches you the significance of reading body language. And then she goes on to tell him that when they were having the meeting, she observed the German who was gesturing while obviously lying because she knows that gesture from her own, like, her own tell.
Yes.
And he's like, all right, thanks very much. Nice
Zip.
eye. He does not zip at all. There's no zip. Tagomi is like a totally good dude.
Hey, I can't help it. That one guy ruined it for me.
All right, so but here's what's going on back at her place while that
Yeah.
conversation is taking place.
I bet Frank's just having a nice time by himself, right?
Frank is not just by himself.
Oh,
I think Ed is over, but either way, Childen, the fucking antiques guy,
yeah, that super
fucking
awesome
kicks
guy.
the door down and he's like, listen to me, I'm not going to die because of your gaijin stupidity. Gaijin is a Japanese word that means outsider. Yeah,
Oh,
so like here's a guy who identifies with the Japanese over himself.
yeah, yeah.
And then yeah, and he's like, listen, we can't, like, those bullets must never be found because if they're found on you, then they'll be tracked back to me. And like, I can't have that. I'm not going to die.
And Frank's like, bro, if they get found on me, I'm fucked too. Just shut the fuck up. I'm not an idiot.
And beyond that, he slams him up against the wall and he's like, listen, you fucker. Like, first of all, fuck you. And
You pick up my socks, Felix.
he's like, if I talk, we both die and you've got more to lose than I do. And Childen is like, I do.
Good point, sir.
And then he goes out. And then so finally, Jules goes home, but it's been a long day because she was like late at the office and she's
Cause
hanging
zip.
around. And no, there was no zip. There's no zip.
This is almost as fun as smoldering fires. Keep going.
Why do you want to create a hostile work environment?
Because you're so nice, to see you get so fucking angry is a joy.
That's interesting. Okay. But also,
Uh,
why do you want to besmirch Tagomi's good name?
I don't know. It's fun.
Like, there's plenty of real zip going on in the workplace. Why are you making it seem like there are false claims?
Because that's the first thing I thought when he stood up in that scene. I was like, oh, he's not that nice. Oh, he is nice. All right.
All right. So anyway, Jules was late for dinner and Frank was like, listen, I called to your mom's and you weren't there like you said you were going. And I called to the dojo and you weren't there neither. And she's like, listen, it's about the films. I'm not giving up on this.
Fuck, Juliana, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Aren't enough
And
people dead already?
they have what is like borderline breakup talk over these fucking films and the lives we've been living. We're only as happy as they allow us to be.
Wouldn't that be the worst thing in the whole world if they broke up?
And she's like, yeah, I mean, he's like, what if there's a better way? And he's like, where have you been? And she's like, I got a job at the Nippon building.
You what?
Fuck, what? They fucking killed your sister and my sister and her kids. She's like, I can't unsee the film and I can't unkill that man in Cannon City. And
I'm
he's like,
sorry, what?
what?
You can't on what?
You what?
Not the film one, the other one, what?
She's like, there was a Nazi
How do you
agent.
let that just fall out of your mouth? Come on.
I mean,
Come
I'm
on. I
sure it's
don't.
been like fucking with her this whole time.
Of course it has. You don't murder someone and you're fine, but you also don't let it fall out of your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, this is a world where like a lot of people have had to do all sorts of things that they wouldn't choose for themselves. And then it's how do you live with yourself in all of these different respects, right?
You tell everyone about it
Like Juliana had to kill a Nazi agent and she's
to
torn up
save herself.
inside. John Smith, God knows how many fucking people that guy's killed.
Ooh. Oh.
And he seems to have made his peace with it on some level. Anyway, she's like, yeah, so like I killed this guy and a person out there helped me. He's like, a person? Was it a man? A fucking man?
I love that was his takeaway. Oh, you murdered someone? That's fine. So, who helped you? A dude? Okay, I see. All right.
And then just Frank storms off, despite the fact that it's after curfew.
Rude.
She's like, don't go out, it's curfew. But he's out.
She throws glasses because she's mad. I don't know.
Back in Long Island, this is one of my favorite scenes of the whole episode.
It's
Obergruppenführer John Smith sits down in the backyard next to Joe, and he is clearly shaken before saying anything. There's like turmoil. You can just read turmoil inside him. I love
yeah.
it. I think
Yeah.
that actor, Rufus Sewell, is fucking A plus. He's amazing.
Yeah, this was a great scene.
He tells Joe the truth about Wegner, about how he was spotted traveling on like identification that's not his own. And Helen knew because Helen's mom has been dead for years, and it's a shame you never met her. She was a wonderful woman. And Joe's like, oh my God, like she's known all day, just like you've known all day.
She's a good woman.
She's a good woman. You have to trust the woman in your life with everything. And then John Smith is like, listen, I did things with Rudolph Wegner that that bond you forever. The things we did, I have no objectivity. My heart wants to believe he's a good man, and whatever it is that he's done that's made him betray his people, he has good reasons. But my head tells me to interrogate him and to take him out in the woods and shoot him in the face. And he's like, I'm asking you, Joe, for your counsel. What the fuck do I do?
He's so fucking troubled by it that he's asking this kid what to do.
Yeah, this kid who like he's barely done anything in his life.
Yeah, and he's a fuck up as far as he's concerned.
Right. Right. And so it's just a little bit later. We hear like fireworks are going off outside because it's like
it's like
VA
4th of
Day,
July.
which is like 4th of July. Exactly. The most American, most Reichian thing.
Oh, but Rudolph's taxi is here to take him back to the airport.
Oh, yeah. Car pulls up.
Oh, well, let's all say goodbye to Rudolph.
Yeah. The door opens. Oh, wait a minute. It's not the taxi.
That's not a taxi.
There's a bunch of Nazis in uniform, and they're waiting for Rudolph Wegner.
Pointing their guns at him.
He turns and he says, "You were always too smart for me, John." And John turns to Joe. "You were right. Emotions can't get in the way of what is right.
Sacrifices need to be
have
made.
to be made." And then more fireworks to close out VA Day. Fuck. Juliana looks at these like
Placemats.
yeah, she has placemats that have American and Japanese words in translation for different flowers. There's like chrysanthemum, rose, and cherry blossom. And she's like, wait a minute. I think
I think that
she puts a few things together. She returns to the office. It's late at night. And she runs into Christine,
who's
doing like, what the fuck are you doing here?
I love Christine.
And she's like, listen, I think that there's a room named for cherry blossoms. Like, I need to get a floor plan of this place. And Christina's like, I'm not gonna fucking help you. And she's like, listen, the next time that asshole asks you for personal services, at least you'll know that you screwed him somehow too. So like, they kind of have like a little mutual,
a little girl bond,
a girl power.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the Spice Girls all over again.
Yep. It was the beginning of the Spice Girls.
If you want to be my lover.
I don't want to finish that. Something about, zip.
No.
Frank visits the guy who lives across from the hardware store.
Yeah, that's like his sister's old boss, Mark Sampson. He went to the funeral and said, drop by anytime if you want to talk. And he's like, I don't even know why I'm here. And he's like, I'm glad you're here. Come on in. And he's like, what does to life mean? You said that. And he's like, well, what do you think? He's like, I think I remember hearing it as a kid.
Like
maybe my grandfather. And he's like,
Mm.
I'm not Jewish. He says that like in self-defense.
Yeah.
And Mark laughs. He's like, we won't hold it against you. which is
uh,
that's what we say.
ah.
We learn that Mark Sampson has also lost family. It's like,
His
yeah,
wife and a child,
yeah,
I gather.
yeah. So he's still got two kids out
Mm.
of three, but he lost a wife and a child. He's like, "Do you mind if I say a prayer for Laura and John and Emily?" And then again, we have a couple of cutting back and forth scenes because the tension is high in both places. Joe, who's staying the night at the Smith residence, is going to go snooping again.
uh, don't reveal what happens because I want to say something about that. Then we go to Julie at the Nikon Center. Is it Nikon Center? Uh,
It's Nippon.
Nippon. Okay.
Nippon
And
Nippon is how you say Japan in Japan.
oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so she's there and she's got her little water pitcher cart and it shows her every like all these times she's trying to get into this room, she gets stopped, she doesn't. She gets to go into this weird narc call center where people are listening to phone calls and writing shit down.
Right. And all the while, so those two scenes are intercut with a third scene, which is Frank.
Mm-hmm.
He's watching as the Sampson family recites the Kaddish, which is the prayer for the dead,
Mm-hmm.
which would be familiar to anyone who's familiar with Jews in general.
Hey, I'm not a
Um,
Jew.
we won't hold it against you. Um, so yeah, so Juliana, like she has used that blueprint to find her way to that like listening eavesdropping room, and there's just like dozens of stations of people eavesdropping to phone calls all over the city, it seems,
Mm-hmm.
and writing down notes about what's important, about like somebody mentioned the crown prince and somebody mentioned this, and like different folders get like filed in different
Yeah.
boxes. And she noticed one box labeled grasshopper.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
just like the film and just like the
Mm-hmm.
file back at the
Mm-hmm.
Smith residence.
She also notices that her stepdad is in the other room and she
Yeah,
has to get the fuck out before
she
he sees
spots
her.
him and dashes out before she's seen, but she also takes what was in the
Yeah.
grasshopper box sneakily.
What do we
We
know
see
what he
Frank
got?
tearing up
Mm-hmm.
as the Kaddish is being recited.
Mm-hmm.
Joe finally gets that key and unlocks the cabinet. He's trying to get the recipe for that cocktail.
This scene, shut the fuck up. Uh, this scene reminds me of why my son and all of his friends now hate Marvel movies because every joke is, they're standing right behind me, aren't they? Because that's what he's like. Oh, I can't wait to get into this file. I'm in the office all by myself. I unlocked with the key I found. I'm so awesome. I'm going to open up this file. Wait a minute. All these pages are empty. Wait a minute. He's standing behind me right now, isn't he? Yep, there's John Smith, and he knew you were going to do that. You're fucked, Joe.
Standing in the doorway smirking.
Mm,
And that's the end of the episode. And it's fucking tense because there's like a lot of shit now in play.
yeah. I can't wait to see what happens to Joe. Or,
Yeah.
no, mostly just Joe.
Is Joe about to go to the gulag just like Rudolph Wegner clearly is? Like, what the fuck? Now that Juliana knows that her stepfather is like some eavesdropping person working for the Japanese government, what
Did
the
we
fuck
not
with
know what
that?
he did before? Did nobody
No, we
know?
did not know.
I mean, I know we didn't know, but did nobody in his family knew either?
No, it's clear. This is clearly breaking news to her.
Yeah, that's true.
Otherwise, like, she might have been able, like, if she'd even known that, like, he was there, like, maybe she could have gotten a job earlier and, like, had a better life. I don't know. I don't know.
If he's in the call center, maybe he knows more about what's going on with Juliana.
He might.
Wait. Never mind.
There are a
Yep.
lot of what ifs,
So many fucking what ifs.
right?
So many what if. Zip.
Yeah, that's clearly what happens. John Smith is like zip, and Joe Blake is like, oh, I need this job.
I don't have the recipe for a grasshopper, but
I'm pretty sure creme de menthe is involved, but I don't know what else goes in it. So I
half and
have to
half.
blow this guy.
Joe, that's not half and half.
All right, that's our out. That's clearly our out.